Alright everybody, we are hopping into a full world tour here, and what we're doing with this is the GT Red Zone. It's a full encompassing showcase of the new Goku and Vegeta going across the fights of the GT Red Zone. We're going to do one of these for Zamasu and the Goku and Vegeta for each of the current Red Zones that have all of their complete stages out. At the end of the anniversary, whenever the full Future Saga celebration is out, I will do a full world tour in there as well. But basically what we're doing is I've recorded these in advance. These are all no item runs against these stages, and I'm gonna show my team builds in them, and I think on most of them I show the end screen, but sometimes I just go into autopilot and I hit end recording before I do. But for the most part, you can see my team builds, you can see how I approach these stages, what characters I like to use for them, and overall we're just going to be, going through here and looking at these characters. I'll provide a little bit of commentary at the start of each fight. This one right here is Legic. Not much to say about Legic himself, which is why it's a great introductory to what we're actually doing here. I hope you guys enjoy this style of content. It seems like you guys really enjoyed it whenever I did it for 23rd World Tournament Goku and Piccolo Jr. back during Golden Week, so I hope you enjoy it here, and we're going to let the OST that I decide to play here continue out the Legic fight for us. Alright, next up on the docket here is the, which one is this? This is Lude. Lord Lude is the next fight up here on the Red Zone. Again, these first few stages, and really just the GT Red Zone entirely right now, are not very difficult stages. If you're having trouble with these, really take, like, a look at what you're bringing into the fight and figure out if there's any units that maybe it's like, if you go check out other people's showcases they're not bringing in here, where you're just not seeing much use of them. Maybe identify the characters on your team that are repeatedly getting you killed, and take them off the team and see if you can bring some other characters and maybe you see I use in other showcases, other YouTubers use in their showcases. There are plenty of YouTubers out there making videos on Dokkan. And most of us do like to run different teams. You'll see a lot of like reoccurring characters that people use on that people like to use on their teams. But overall, you'll find some differences in their team builds as you go throughout other people's showcases. So be sure you take a look at that. Learn from it, figure out what they're doing, and figure out what works best for you and your box. Team building is definitely a critical aspect of this game, and it's definitely the thing that's hardest to help people with. It's because it's like we can't sit down with you, one-on-one, talk about each of these units, but we can do is provide these videos for you across the internet for you all to take a look at and decide what strategies work best for you, and just, how do you want to build your units, things like that. So, hopefully these guides help you out with that. Not much here to talk about Lude. He's a pretty easy fight. He's a little tanky, I guess, just because Goku and Vegeta here don't do a ton of damage. They're not really main damage dealers. Bulma's only 55%, so she's not really doing damage either. And then Vegeta and Trunks are type disadvantaged in this first phase, and then Trunks is also, he doesn't really get crazy in his damage until later on in the fight. I did bring Trunks into all of these fights that we did here, and he looked really good throughout this entire run that we did. So, let me know what you guys think about these runs here. Let me know what you think about the Lude fight. I'm going to let the OST play us out, and I will come back for the Rildo commentary. Alright, next up we do have General Rildo here in the Red Zone. This was like the first stage, whenever these Red Zone stages started coming out, that we were like, alright, well listen, maybe these guys are, going to be a little bit tough. This was, I mean, over 2 years ago at this point that these, well no, maybe not 2 years. About a year in, well, I guess close to 2 years on JP. It's been about 2 years almost on JP, about a year and what, 9 months or so. So, what is that? 21 months old. These red zone stages are so. Well, maybe a little bit less, maybe about 20 months or so. Listen, semantics don't really matter. The point is, these stages are getting pretty old, and at the time, Rildo was like one of these first fights. You know, him and Baby, they were kind of like, all right, like maybe this is harder than the God event. You know, maybe there is a little bit going on here. But overall, it's like you know, we started to feel that power creeper. Like, oh man, what are these end stages going to look like here in this red zone? And I mean, now we just can come in here and completely foderize Rildo with no issues. Even Goku and Vegeta, I mean, they're not crazy impressive, but I mean, they can handle their own against, you know, the toughest fights in the game. They can handle Rildo, right? Like, that's not going to be an issue. Even if we run out of guard or anything, Rildo just doesn't have the stats to put us in the dirt, so we're going to put him in the dirt instead. Not much to say about him. He can be a little bit annoying. I believe he has locks. Does he also have seals? I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure he has locks in his final phase, and that can make him a little bit annoying here. But overall, he's not too bad to deal with. I kind of think about him as like Bojack Light. You know, Bojack in the movie boss stages is basically a harder version of this fight, and Rildo here is not very difficult. So I'll let the OST play us out. I don't know which one I'm picking for any of these fights yet. I haven't decided. I have an idea of what I'm going to use for some of them, but you guys let me know if you like my OST choices, and let me know what you thought about this Rildo fight, and if this helped you out at all. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the baby commentary. Alright, next up we have the Baby fight of the red zone. Now, I remember the first time I ever got a clear against Baby here, because whenever this fight first came out, it was like, alright, listen, this fight is pretty tough. You know, we had these, for like the first time in the game, it felt like we had an AoE boss that could actually do damage to us, which was pretty crazy. But, you know, as time went on, we realized, oh man, Baby really isn't all that tough, you know, compared to, you know, like Broly. You know, it's like we got Baby and we thought he was pretty tough, and then Broly came out and it was like, oh, Baby is actually free. Now, Baby can be a little bit annoying, but the nice thing about him is that he doesn't really have good type coverage. You can come in here with a lot of physical units and take him out. I mean, that's not what we're doing here. You know, we're just using Vegeta and Trunks, who are really good. Like, low-key, I was thinking about it. I was about here during these showcases. I was like, am I doing a Goku and Vegeta showcase, or am I actually just secretly showcasing Vegeta and Trunks and Tech Trunks? Because I felt like they looked the most impressive throughout all of these runs here. You guys let me know who you thought looked the most impressive throughout all of these runs, but I really thought Vegeta and Trunks really stole the show whenever I was doing these. The nice thing about these runs is that I'm really just going for wins. It's not just a showcase of the units themselves, it's a showcase of their team and its capabilities, and just how I approach these fights and the characters I like to bring. You can see that I like to bring a main core of units, the Goku, really in these fights, I brought basically the exact same team throughout all of it. I might have brought the exact same team throughout all of it, just because this team is so tight. It's like you have Goku and Vegeta, you know, obviously I have to bring them because they're the leaders. That's the whole point. I'm going to bring Bulma because she's just an amazing support and amazing defensive character. Then I'm going to bring God Goku because he links well with everybody on the team. I mean, except Bulma, but Bulma has Bulma links, so I mean, that's to be expected. But, you know, he's going to link well with everybody else. Oh, I guess I did bring Gowasu and Zamasu in this one. So, I mean, that's fun. You know, Gowasu and Zamasu, they're a nice support. They're physical, so they can do well against Baby. They also auto-super, which is, you know, kind of good. But yeah, they're definitely going to be a solid unit, providing us support and just, you know, huge defensive support as well. But, you know, overall, I like to bring, like, a core of units that I find is, like, okay, it's like, whenever I run a team, I have the leader, and then I have, like, you know, some core units that it's like, okay, these are going to be my mainstay rotations, and then I may fill in, like, the last 2 slots with just units who are going to be good in that fight. And in this case, I just brought Vegeta and Trunks. They were going to be a rotation for me. And then I figured that the Goku and Vegetas, those could float. And then God Goku himself, he would be another, like, mainstay unit or a floater. You know, that's the nice thing about, like, God Goku and Bulma, is that they can just kind of be floaters, or they can be mainstay units, depending on how the fight's going. So that's just kind of my ideology whenever I approach these fights. It's kind of like, okay, you know, before I even go into a fight, I think about what I'm going to do going into that fight. So what I like to do with the Goku and Vegeta unit, right, the Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta, is because they essentially get guard on their first 2 turns no matter what, I like to float them on their first 2 turns. So if I get them on turn 1, I'm going to float them off on turn 1, we'll get them back on turn 4, and then I'll float them off again on turn 4, and we won't see them again until turn 7, and then we'll be able to fuse, right? Like, best case scenario, I mean, we can just fuse. So that's, I think, the best way to use them. You know, if we get them on turn 2, then we float them off, we'll see them again on turn 5, they'll still have their guard, we can float them off again, and then we'll see them on turn 8, and they can fuse. That's how I think this unit should be used. Let me know how you guys kind of approach using that unit on your team, but that's kind of my ideology whenever I use them. It's like, all right, we have them, we know they're only going to be defensive for a few turns here, let's not waste it, let's float them off, and that way we have maximum guard, and we can also hide them as effectively as possible before they actually get into Vegito. But that's just how I like to approach things, and I think it's pretty effective. You guys let me know how you would like to approach these fights, and I'm going to let Vegeta and Trunks and everybody else on the team carry us into the fight, and we're going to let the OST play us out. I will come back for commentary against Super 17. All right, next up here is Super 17. I remember I was, you know, there was the live stream Truth was doing for Super 17 whenever he first came out. I'm starting all these fights off with just like reminiscing, you know, memories, but I don't know, it's just on my mind. Every time I think about this Super 17 fight, I think about how he brought Tech Gogeta in here, and Tech Gogeta just got like absolutely cooked, and he was like, oh, so that's the end of his lifespan, you know. Tech Gogeta did survive a little bit into Red Zone just because there were no other good options whenever this event first came out, but it was pretty plain to see that it was like, oh, this guy's done, and so is pretty much the rest of the game up to this point. You know, it was a huge jump from like Extreme Super Battle Road in the God event to this right here. It's like, you could still use Extreme Super Battle Road as like a good judge of characters and like their abilities, and then we just kind of decided like, you can use 8 items in there, like, total. You know, you have 4 items that you can bring, and then you get 2 of each of them, so it's like you can use 8 items into that fight, and it's like, alright, you can hop into Red Zone, you get 2 total items, because you can bring 1, you get 2 of them, and these bosses are hitting, like, harder than the God event, and are just really, really annoying. A lot of them have really tight type coverage too. Super 17 doesn't really have any type coverage. You can come in here with AGL units and you're going to be fine. But then finding out also that he absorbs Ki Blast was like a huge deal. I remember like some people would forget and they would bring the 7th anniversary LRs in here and they'd be like, all right, physical Gogeta, let's cook. And you know, they'd pop the active skill and then it's like 17 just absorbs the big bang Kamehameha, right? So that was always like really fun to see whenever these fights came out. But now this GT Red Zone, I don't even put it on my World Tour showcase anymore. Or like my main like showcase World Tour. We're doing this just because I'm going to do a World Tour in every Red Zone, and I wanted to be fair and still include it because I know there are some people out there that are still struggling with some Red Zone fights. So, you know, I like to do this, again, just so that people can see my ideology, how I approach these fights, you know, different situations, what I do in them. And you can just kind of see the decisions I make as I go through them. You know, maybe we got some lucky breaks in here. I know one of these runs, I don't remember which fight it was. It might have been Rildo, where we got like a dodged super attack or something. I don't know. There for a while, I felt like Trunks was dodging like a ton in these showcases, but I don't remember exactly what video it was or when it was. But I thought Goku and Vegeta did fine in here. Part of that was I wasn't really using them much. Like, they had very little screen time. And we were just on the back of, like, God Goku and Bulma and Vegeta and Trunks the entire video. Another thing this was to do was serve as, like, a mini showcase series for Tech Trunks as well. I did want to show that, you know, he can hold up in these tough fights and that people writing him off instantly because he can't be used are, you know, it is a little ridiculous. He does look pretty good throughout all of these fights that we did here. Yeah, there are fights that he can't really compete in, but I felt like he did well in all of these showcases. And again, this GT Red Zone isn't the hardest ever, but I still thought he did well. So anyway, we will come back for the Shadow Dragon GT stage. It's like stage 6 against all of the Shadow Dragons. So we will come back for commentary there, enjoy the OST, and we will be back. Alright, next up we do have the Shadow Dragon. What is this called? It's just called the Shadow Dragons. So it's versus the Shadow Dragons GT Red Zone Stage 6 here. This fight isn't very long. I would normally use it for showcases, but some of the enemies I think can like lock and seal, and it just does annoying things, and I don't want to deal with that. I can deal with debuffs like, you know, Cell. I really think Cell is like the best showcase stage right now, just because, I mean, he is pretty tough. He has some, you know, predictable phases, which make him really nice. Like, you always know that the physical phase is going to super you his first attack, so you can play around that with your showcase. You don't have to worry about your showcase unit getting supered, or if you need to take damage, you can put a unit in front of it that can tank it but still take a little bit of damage. You know, you can just play around that fight a whole lot. I kind of don't like it because you can like stun the fight all the way up to AGL Cell, which can be kind of annoying if you're trying to take hits. But overall, I do think it is a really good showcase stage. It does have a few debuffs, but, you know, it's long enough that we can let characters get built up. It's hard enough hitting that, you know, if we need to take damage, we can take damage. And I just think it's a really good showcase stage. Whereas, like, this Shadow Dragon Army stage, it's you get far enough in here and they start, like, locking you and sealing you and debuffing you. It's like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to ever do a showcase in a stage that's going to, like, lock my units out of the rotations I want. The whole point of like a, you know, actual showcase video is to, you know, just look at the unit and display them at like a high power. And if they're, you know, getting locked off a rotation onto like turn 3, like they get locked in slot 3, they get floated off, you know, I'm not able to show the character. It just becomes like a team showcase at that point, which is what we're doing here. That's the whole purpose of this, is to showcase the team. So if I get locked in these slots, you know, things happen, that's fine. because the whole purpose here is to just show the team. It's not really to show an individual unit. It's just to show, hey, you got Goku and Vegeta. Here's a team that you can build with them, and you should be able to dominate all of the events with them. So, a little unfortunate, by the way, that damage that we did here to Hei's Shinron. Hopefully this audio is synced up with where you guys are, but sometimes I do like to skip around in these fights just to see if anything interesting happened in them, but I haven't skipped so far, so hopefully it's close. But yeah, no issues really going throughout this fight. It took me a minute to get my rotation set up in this one, but ultimately we got it set up just fine, and the run went smoothly. This was a pretty long fight. I'm trying to remember one of these fights. I had Vegito Blue go like absolutely insane. It might have been this one. He might have done like 7 attacks or something crazy. One of these stages, it was either here or Omega. We got to the very end. I transformed into Vegito Blue, and he did like the most attacks I've ever seen on a turn. Like, I mean, not actually, but maybe. Legit, he did like 5 attacks, or at least it felt like it. I was like, dude, are we ever going to stop? And they weren't like meaningless attacks either. It was like an 11 million into like a 10 million into an 8 million or something. Like, it was crazy. So, well, I guess it would be going up and not down. So it was like an 11 million into like a 8 million into like an 8.4 into a 9 into something. Like, it was crazy, the damage that he was doing. And again, he did like 4 or 5 attacks or something. I don't remember. Plus his active skill, I believe. Or maybe it wasn't his active skill. Maybe we didn't get his active skill. But regardless, he did like 1 million attacks. They're all super effective against all types. So if you just like add up like the numbers that he did on his attack stat and then multiply it by, what is it, 1.5 essentially for super effective against all types, it's slightly different. It's a slightly different decimal. But essentially it's basically 1.5. And that's like his true damage or like his true attack stat that he did on the turn. Pretty good. But anyway, I think that's this fight. You'll see at the very end of it. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to let the audio play us out, and we will come back for the Omega fight. Alright, last up here is the fight against Omega. This fight used to be pretty tough because his normals hit you so hard. You know, it's like the best unit you could bring in this fight was the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and you got to, like, this guy had really tight type coverage. It's like you got to that STR phase, and he did so much damage to you, even that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. And a lot of times you could get there before you could even fuse with them, and the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta were just like a sitting duck against this guy. This guy was so scary whenever he came out, and now I'm like, oh, we're bringing like multiple tech units into this fight, whatever, they can just tank it. Oh, that was pretty good dodge by Goku and Vegeta dodging off here even though they were sealed, so that's pretty good. This was one rotation where I could not float them off on turn 1 because like we needed to float off Vegito. Vegito only gets his dodge in slot 3, so we needed to put him there, and then I figured we could just float them off next turn, which would be best. You know, Trunks is taking a little bit of damage here, but it's fine. We kind of expected that. That's like the worst Trunks is going to look throughout this showcase. Give him another turn of supering, and he's going to look fine. But overall, I thought everybody in this showcase looked really good, and, you know, I had a really good time recording it. I felt like the Goku and Vegeta teams took a little bit longer to record. At the time of me doing this audio, I have already recorded the Zamasu showcases, and I'm going to be doing their audio next. I'm just going to say, I'm pretty sure that recording and that video is going to be a lot longer. So right now, all of my recordings put together, the raw footage is about a little less than an hour. I'm going to trim it down. I'm going to try to get this video to about 20 to 30 minutes, maybe less. Maybe somewhere between 15 and 25. We'll try to get it in between there. We'll see after I get like the audio put in how long I need to make each clip so that, you know, it's like my audio is not overlapping into the next video. The hardest one being like Legic, right? Like I don't think I'll be able to speed that one up very much just because the clip is already super short, but my audio is not very long, so we'll see. That's, you know, the hard part about editing. You know, I have to actually edit a video, which I say editing loosely here. I'm really not editing too much. I'm just going to be, you know, fast forwarding the videos, slapping my audio in, making sure the levels are decent, and then throwing an OST over it in the background. So we'll see how things go. You know, I do have to put a slight bit more effort into these than you know, what I normally would, which is just pressing record and then uploading the video. Here we have to actually, you know, press record the audio, put the audio in, make sure the audio levels are good, add the OST audio, make sure it's not just blaringly loud, and then, you know, increase the levels so that after my audio's done, it increases, you know, gradually so that it doesn't just blow your speakers out immediately. Ugh, it's so annoying, which is why, by the way, there's only going to be 2 videos probably on, what would it be, Tuesday? You're only going to get 2 videos, but essentially you're getting 14 videos just compiled into 2. So let me know if you guys like these video formats, and I'm going to keep doing them. I'm probably going to do them until we find out more information about what's coming. I've pretty much shown Goku and Vegeta everywhere else, so I figured I would just go ahead and get these world tours out of the way. So today is going to be the GT Red Zones, and then tomorrow we will do the movies, and then the Wicked Bloodline, and then the Red Ribbon Army Red Zones. And I'll try to get multiple of these out a day. It just depends on how long I have to be at work. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know what OST we're going to play here, but I'm sure it's hopefully one that you'll enjoy. Or it's, you know, at least one I enjoy. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what I end up playing here at all. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please let me know if you like this video format or not. Let me know if these are like chill. You can like just listen to these while you're working, you know, maybe doing some homework. You don't have to listen to my voice constantly. You get a little bit of reprieve in between each clip. You can just listen to a nice Dokkan OST, look at some footage, and move on with your lives. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to catch you guys next time.